Bobbie Butters, four-time world's medalist in the Open, two-time European champ, world record breaker. And my friend, you have an announcement to make.
I do. I don't actually know how to say this, but yeah, I was told I think 2 weeks ago that I am the first reserve for Sheffield 2025.
So I know that by the time this podcast drops, SPD will have announced this. I know
Yeah,
we coordinated it, so we're not like jumping before they do it. But
yeah,
when you found out, I mean, this I know obviously Shell is now going, but last year he was an alternate, and you never know what's going to happen here. I've had
no,
conversations with people how going into the I don't gotta tell you because you're 57, going into world championships, how many times we people see people have to pull out of world championships due to injury. I've talked to people like, oh, nobody pulls out when it comes to that level. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Natalie
absolutely.
Richards, Natalie Richards had to vacate her title and,
Yep,
and not defend her world title due to injury. So to
yep.
to get a reserve spot, it is legitimately only time. Eventually, a reserve is going to end up lifting at Sheffield. And even if you don't end up lifting at Sheffield, you're there for the meet and greet, you're there for the banquet, you're there for the whole freaking thing. And you get treated like a queen, fly out, throw some food in your stomach, and you get to chill, hanging out with everybody, be a part of it all, which is an amazing experience. So when you found out, what was your reaction?
Disbelief, definitely, disbelief. Um, it took a second to kind of register truly like what it meant. Yeah, just and then just incredibly proud, super honored that the like they said that the IPF like had approved that like I was a good candidate to have this, and I was like, this is crazy, how have I got this opportunity? Like just full on like this kind of put into words. Like just yeah, just like an incredible opportunity that I'm so grateful to even be considered for. Yeah, that's kind of where my head went.
Well, I mean, like I said off the hop. I mean, you're a four-time world's medalist in the Open. Won the European title a couple of times. You've broken world records, so obviously you're on the level. If you get the opportunity, what are some goals you like to hit? You're getting awfully close to 500 kilos. I gotta think you would like to take a swing at that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The same with any meet, I guess. I just want to try and better myself, put the best performance I can on that day. If I can break that 500 kilo barrier, then that would be incredible. Like absolutely, that would be a really, really great goal. And then yeah, just chip away at each one of my lifts. It'd be great to have that influx on each one of them. That'd be awesome.
Should the opportunity arise, uh, Sheffield is like nothing else we've seen, and
Yeah,
the British crowd. Oh my gosh, do they pop for their British lifters, huh? It's crazy.
absolutely, absolutely. You know where we are in a competition.
It in Sheffield, you're everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be nuts. I remember, from the first year, the impact is nuts, but it seems like Britain has really leveled up. I just did a podcast actually with Sergey Fedoshenko, the 59 kilo lifter. And I mean, we could talk about this in a bit, but there's a lot of Russian athletes who will be returning to international competition under neutral athlete status. So they won't be representing Russia, but they'll be there nonetheless. And he even mentioned the leveling up that Team Britain's done. And I think a lot of people have noticed this. Like all over in all different weight classes, Team Britain seems to be leveling up. Right down to in Sheffield, the Battle of the 83s, there's four 83s and two of them are British. One of them's the world record holder, one of them's the world champion. I mean, have you felt this in Britain? The level, like, has the participation rate gone up, or is it just the lifters you have are getting better, or both, or what is this?
I think a mixture of both, definitely. Like I've been in powerlifting for 15 years and like almost 15 years. And it's just massively influxed the amount of participation. Like you talk to people randomly on the street, what you do, etc. You say powerlifting, people know what it is. Five
Mm.
years ago, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. People didn't know what powerlifting was. Oh, do you do this? Like lift things above your head? No, 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 no. Whereas now, like, people know what it is and more people are doing it. And obviously people are upping their game. People are breaking barriers. People want to go further. People are more committed to it, in terms of it's a big part of people's lives. It's becoming a very prestigious sport. So I can see why it's growing in that popularity for sure.
It like when I first was in powerlifting, this is going back a ways, but I remember being at work and telling somebody, yeah, like I'm pretty deep into prep right now. I'm about 2 months out, uh, you know, 6 weeks out from my competition. And one of the ladies being like, I thought you looked more tanned. I know you guys like put oil on to make more. I'm like, yeah, that's bodybuilding. Like, whatever,
That's
whatever.
brilliant.
And then another time it was an Olympic year, and I was on the Canadian national team going to Worlds, and they're like, oh, are you gonna be at the Olympics?
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Yeah,
Sure I am. That's right.
sure.
As a matter of fact, I
Sure.
remember I remember bumping into a lady at the grocery store and her telling me that my mom told her I was going to the Olympics. Just
Wow.
my own parents didn't know what's powerlifting, what's the world championships, it's all the same. It is what it is, whatever. Whereas nowadays, yeah, you're far more likely when you bump into somebody, they know what it is. It's funny
Mhm.
because you're 29, right? And
Mhm.
you're right. Okay. I thought I was like, I'm 20. Yeah, you're 29.
That's right.
And
I'm very
you've been in since 2012,
Yeah.
like way back,
Sounds about right. Yeah, yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah.
12 years back. So even though you started in 20s, like you are a grizzled veteran. But so what it was like back in the day when nobody knew what powerlifting was, before the social media booms, before any of that. And what for sure, nobody really fully knew even what the sport was. We were always getting mixed up with bodybuilding and Olympic lifting. And now
Yeah.
you have to explain here and there, but most people will know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most people won't know.
Well,
Yeah, it's amazing.
in terms of in the UK, do you think, and this might be a mixture of a lot of things, as a whole, powerlifting has grown, no question. It's
Mhm.
on Eurosport as well. Social media, we have a bunch of social media stars. So all of that, the live stream for the IPF Worlds has gotten better and better every year. But I think Sheffield in the UK, do you think that helps as well? Like having one of the premier events, if not, well, definitely the single day premier event for sure in the UK. Do you think that helps the popularity all around?
I think it has to be a factor. Like it has to be, like it brings such a hype to the sport. As you said, there's many different factors, but I'd be surprised if that wasn't one of the factors that helped increase that popularity and the buzz around powerlifting.
Like if you get even if anybody buys a ticket and shows up, and for them, if you're in the UK,
Mhm.
it's a train. It's not a flight. It might not even be
Yeah,
a hotel, depending on how far the train is away. So you just
yeah, yeah,
train in, watch, and if you watch, you're hooked. You're gonna be, this is
yeah,
powerlifting. We got you.
yeah,
100% we
definitely.
got you. What was were you surprised to find out that Matt Gary is now the head coach for Team Britain?
I think, yeah, maybe surprised. I was kind of when I got the email and the announcement and things like that, I was like, okay, okay, cool, right? This is the person that's going to be part of our team. Um, let's same with I guess any coach. Let's build a bond, get to know the athletes, and get to know like obviously there's nationals in 2 weeks' time. Build that relationship with that person. But yeah, I think surprise is probably a good word to describe it. But yeah, looking forward to see what's going to go forward with the team.
It's we see this in other sports. In the Olympics, you will see certain nations, I don't know if poached is the right word, but go for coaches from other nations, and there's no rules against it. We
Yep.
see like I've said it before on the podcast, like in hockey, for instance, Canada's a hockey nation, but a lot of Canadians will be coaching other nations' national hockey teams. And that happens for like even Olympic lifting. They have coaches from all over the
does.
world get brought in. And when it's an Olympic sport, there can be millions of dollars given from the government for certain sports wanting, because that particular country wants that particular sport to thrive. They
Yeah.
will go out there and grab the coaching staff and bring them over and pay them oodles of money, etc. So for us in powerlifting, this feels, wow, this is kind of, he's American and he's coming over and he's going to be, head coach of another nation. But in sports in general, we've seen this like a long time. This is not anything new whatsoever, but it's relative. I think this is new for powerlifting. I can't remember off the top of my head this happening, anyways. But it's interesting, isn't it? And I think as we grow as a sport, do you think we're going to see more of this, or it's kind of weird because he's going to be facing off against America.
Yeah, yeah. We may do. And as you said, like it demonstrates that the sport is growing. It's not been that long since we've had a national governing body for powerlifting. And it's growing. It's in the World Games. We've got these big events, there's big prize funds, the athletes again, they're getting more and more recognition, etc. So it's growing. I think it's another way of demonstrating how it's growing. In that, as you say, this coach wants to come and make this nation better. He obviously had this opportunity and has wanted to take it, which is incredible. Just want to make the sport grow. And so I think we may see it more and more.
Yeah, I mean, at Worlds, I would see routinely, like Rory actually, Lynch, who's done the podcast several times, like he's a co-host here, and he's talked about being at the World Championships. Some lifters from nations that are underrepresented, they're not big in powerlifting, and sometimes lifters show up and they don't even have head coaches. And Rory and other coaches from other nations will take them under their wing. Like, I'll help you out for the day. So this practice on the lower levels happens. I mean, it actually happens relatively common. Every single world championships, you're going to have people show up from nations, and either they don't have coaching staff with them because there's not a lot of them going, or the coaching staff is relatively green to the scene. They're just trying to help out. And some coaching staff that's not green, but doesn't have anyone in that session. So there's no conflict of interest. They're like, all right, whatever, I'll help you out. And it happens from time to time. We see it every single year. So it's only a matter of time before something like this. Now, Matt Gary is one of the game day all-time greats. It's going to be an interesting conversation when
Mhm.
he's got to go. Like, for instance, I mean, there's an American 57, Natalie Richards, there's yourself. It's like, whoa, Matt, we're picking a lane here. You're going to be going against your nation. It's an interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, it's
It is,
sport. It's
absolutely.
not, treason, but it is interesting. It is
It
definitely
is.
interesting.
Oh, definitely.
I
Yeah.
I would when he comes over, I know he's going to British Nationals. I think you guys should probably jump him in, just to test his heart. You know, just
I love
get a circle, surround him, be like, what are your intentions? Rough him up a little bit, check for a wire, make sure he's on the level. Because you never know. You never know. But some people listening, we were talking about it offline before we started, but the British team, how does it work to make a British team? Do you just win the British nationals? There's also team selection meets, and how does this work?
it. So I probably should know this way better than I actually do. So I apologize if I do speak wrongly here.
No worries.
My understanding is if you win nationals, um, that gives you a higher chance of getting selected. Um, if you win your weight class in the national championships, and then from there, I think it then goes off things such as um potential medal placing. There we go, get my words out. Potential medal placing at World Championships, or it goes off the British ranking overall. And so I believe there's multiple factors to sort of consider to get the team together,
Hmm.
to create the best team, I guess, as a whole, as opposed to just those individual lifters. Um, Again, it's not super straightforward, so I apologize if I have said anything that is incorrect, but that's my current understanding of how it works. But it's certainly, I really feel for the coaches, making these decisions, and then obviously the decisions never always 100% right, can't always please everybody. There's always going to be some form of potential conflict between people. And so I massive respect to the coaches for trying to make these decisions.
It's going to be tough. And also don't worry about like Matt's going to come on the podcast and explain it all anyways. So
Excellent.
what? Yeah,
Good. That's the person that needs
he's he's
to.
he's going to be able to explain it. It's interesting. Like you're right in terms of team selection. You're probably as the head coach going to be under some scrutiny. I mean, some of these decisions are going to be difficult. I don't know if it's completely cut and dry how it happens. In an ideal world, you just face off head to head at a national championship, and whoever wins goes.
Yeah.
But some processes for some nations, it's more convoluted, especially with Sheffield. And this is I was going to ask you about this, but you have a lot of Americans that they can use their total from Sheffield. That's the end of January. That's the 28th. Or they can show up in April to the national championship. There's a space in between. You have that decision. I kind of like straight up head to head showdown. Let's see what happens. It just takes out all doubt, right? But sometimes the way some of the nations' calendars work out, it doesn't work that well. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts? What's going to happen with you? Because the British Championship is coming around, but you
Hmm.
might be lifting at Sheffield, but you might
Yeah.
not. So then you're like how have you been told, all right, what's going on here? Because like if I forego nationals to prep for Sheffield, and they're like, yeah, well, just if you lift at Sheffield, we'll use your Sheffield total. Okay, cool. What if I don't lift at Sheffield, but I prep for it? So I don't go to
Mhm.
nationals because I'm prepping for it. Like, are you in a bit of a pickle here, or is this have you thought this out, or how's this work?
Um, for me, I thought it was quite simple. I was like, I'm still going to lift at nationals. It's a competition I've been prepping for, etc. And then myself and my coach, we were discussing basically like, right, okay, how would we approach Sheffield? Luckily, there's been a nice big gap between worlds and national championships, which is quite nice. So it's bigger than usual. Um, so I'm going to go and lift at nationals, and then basically just continue the training into Sheffield. And then there's a nice big gap again between Sheffield and the potential worlds. So yeah, that's plan so far.
Are you not going to do Europeans then if you do Sheffield?
Um, I'd already decided I wasn't going to do Europeans because of going to the World Games to reduce the amount of competitions in a short space of time because you've got World Games and Worlds within 6 weeks of each other. So I wanted sort of go hard at nationals, if you will, and then World Games because of how close they were together. I've already made that decision not to do Euros.
So you are going to do both Worlds and World Games.
If I get selected, that's my ideal, what I'd probably want to do, if I could.
Can you do you think there'll be some people that will forego a world championship and just focus on world games? Because like there are some people who 6 weeks is fine. You got someone like Penna who's damn near he's like grinding out lifts in the gym all the time, like every week on a weekly basis, anyways. But you got other people where they compete like maybe twice a year. It's just how your body
Yeah.
responds to that kind of taxing. Do you think
Mm.
some people might forego worlds for world games?
Maybe. I feel like there is discussions around it, and as you rightly say there, some people 6 weeks is just too small, and they actually, do you know what? I want to go and give my everything to the World Games. Mad respect if that's what works best for you. Then you definitely then that those people may choose to do that, and you've got to do what's right for you, definitely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a tough choice. World Games, I was talking to some of the lifters, and some of them that are going, they don't know what to expect, right? Like if they're classic
Mm.
lifters, they haven't been to World Games, so they hear the hype, but it's like Sheffield before Sheffield happened. If you can
Yeah.
imagine that, we all know what Sheffield is. So now it's difficult to imagine, but there was a period in time before Sheffield happened where there was actually people saying it's not going to be that big. It's not going to live up to the hype. It's not going to. It's crazy as it seems now
When you
because
think
we know
about
every,
it,
yeah, but there legitimately were naysayers who thought Sheffield wasn't going to be all that. But they just hadn't seen it, and you tell yourself, yeah, 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 yeah. You're used to hype, right? And some people just are cynical by nature. So I think some people don't. Well, they don't realize what World Games might be. I myself am not sure though. I don't know. Even if you watch classic or sorry, equipped World Games, when I watch equipped Worlds, it's not the same as classic Worlds. I don't even think looking at previous World Games is going to prep you. I don't know
no,
what to expect. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think World Games going to feel like? Is it going to feel like Worlds in like a somewhere in because it's obviously all killers. Like it's just everyone who was on the podium, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
is it somewhere in between Worlds and Sheffield or something? Or I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe it will be. But yeah, I'm exactly the same as yourself. I don't really know what to expect. I got really excited by the fact that there might be like an athlete village and things like that. Like, is there going to actually be an insight into some Olympic vibes going on here?
Yeah.
I'm going to a country, a continent even that I've never been to before. So I'm just sort of like, right, let's see what happens. Let's go and enjoy some lifting and we'll just experience what we experience because as you said there's no previous frame of reference of what this potentially could be like until we actually see how it manifests. So yeah, I really don't know what to expect, but it might be that middle ground between Sheffield and Worlds. I don't even know how the categories fully work or how the winners selected and things of that nature like fully, so yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know all of I know they squished the weight classes together. I can't remember all the different weight
Hmm.
classes off the top of my head.
Like,
I think you're with the 63s and it's good lift points.
mhm,
I
mhm,
think you'll be squished with the 63s, which is pretty cool.
mhm.
I mean, you got that actually, oh, Leah Bob was a 69. So
She
she
was.
won't be with you guys. Wait,
No.
right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. She was a 69. Now she's gonna be a 63.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Anyways, it's
right.
gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy cool.
It
And it's
is
only every
definitely.
4 years. Like once every four
No,
years.
no, that's mad.
Like the like you think about 4 years ago, the people that were big in powerlifting. It's almost like a graduating class. You know, in high school, college, you got graduating classes.
Yeah, yeah.
Every 4 years, the athletes at the top of powerlifting might change over. At least every 8 years for sure. It's almost like a graduating class. And the fact that you made it to these world games and you could look around and be like, I'm part of this graduating class. When people look back at the world games, like, who are the names of the people who went to the first classic Raw World Games? You'll have made it. And you made it because you made the podium and you're at the top end level. And it's cool to be amongst that. Be like, okay, when they look at this era, like who are big names from that era? You you
Mhm.
made it onto the list.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
tough. No pressure. No pressure. That's tough.
None.
What a
Yeah, yeah.
freaking year it would be for you if you make it into Sheffield platform too.
Right? That would be insane. Insane.
Even being an alternate, selected as an alternate is quite the honor as well. I mean, it is crazy
Hmm.
tough
Yeah,
making it this far. And if you make it on there, I know the British are going to go nuts for you. But even regardless, the meet and greets and everyone's going to go nuts. And the
unreal.
banquet, holy smokes, so the banquet's nice. Um, we were talking before we came on, but you're going for your PhD, you're coaching, you got a job, you're doing lectures. Let's dive into some of this because you are a super duper busy woman, especially at 29 years old. And you're a top level athlete on top of that. I don't know how you're doing this. You got to have like zero time. But let's talk about some of these things you're doing, and I think it really does speak to powerlifting now, due to how much more popular it is, other athletes and other sports are now seeking out powerlifting coaching as strength and conditioning coaches, as
Mhm.
opposed to, because they respect it as a sport, they respect those three lifts, and due to that, you will bring in a world class power lifter with a PhD who understands, like, train our people. Like, for instance, Jason Tremblay of the Strength Guys, who coaches, obviously, Strength Guys got Leah Babla, Taylor Atwood, Celine the Machine, Jessica Espinal, yada, yada. And he's working with NHL teams, like multi-million dollar professional franchise hockey leagues,
Wow.
working with these teams as a strength and conditioning coach because they respect that. They're like, if you're going to do any kind of weight room training, but of course, it's going to be viable. And I think more and more of these doors are going to open up. Individuals like yourself showing up, giving lectures, and when you're doing these PhDs and leaning into it, and you could speak both as an athlete as well, with this knowledge base that you're gaining. So tell me about it. What are you doing for your PhD? These lectures you're doing, and in the coaching you're doing as well.
Amazing. Yeah. So my first and foremost job is I'm a full-time lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire. So I teach strength and conditioning and I teach like sport and exercise science. Um, my coaching nowadays, so I've done online coaching, in-person coaching for a long time. I was 16 when I first started coaching. And so I've been
Wait a second. You were 16? First off, that's
yeah.
adorable. I can't, it would be amazing if I was a grown ass man and a 16-year-old girl was like, Ryan, your squat depth is horrible. You got to pause your bench press. What are you doing? And I'm getting chastised. Ryan, are you serious right now? Are you serious about your accessories? Because you're
Could
16,
you
young lady.
imagine?
You're like, what, we got a Zoom call because I got to see your face because I can't even believe what you're texting me right now. Like, if you talk about, I am an adult. You can't talk to me like that, Bobbie. But anyways, that's wild. Okay, sorry. Let's get back on track. So you were
No,
doing
no,
this at
you could.
16. Holy
Yeah, I did
smokes.
like I was like a personal trainer, so like working in the gym, so general population mostly. But always loved lifting weights since I was a little girl. And nowadays, so I've done like online coaching, etc., etc. Nowadays, I literally have five lifters. I spend X amount of hours, not very much each week, because with my PhD starting, I was like, I've got to be realistic now with the time I'm allocating to it. So, fortunately, in the UK, when you're a lecturer, you get research time.
Mm,
And that research time for myself is now my PhD. And it's classed as a day a week. I use inverted commas here because we all know that like is like an unspoken word that it's actually your evenings and weekends. It's not actually the day in the work week because of what it
yeah,
requires.
it's like,
Um,
they're like,
yeah.
figure it out, is what they're saying. Figure it out.
But yeah, you'll figure it out, Like my manager will say to me, she'll be like, right, so Bobbie, you can't actually take anything else on. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I understand this. And then it's like, I'm doing my PhD. Yeah, I'm doing my PhD. Um, so my PhD is in the effects of the menstrual cycle phases on muscular strength. And my first phase is I'm currently distributing questionnaires, one that's directed towards biological females who resistance train and experience a regular menstrual cycle. And then the other questionnaire is directed to the coaches and trainers who coach biological females who resistance train at least twice a week.
Hmm.
They're currently on my social media. I'm like throwing them out there. People are probably sick of seeing them. I've put them on my story so many times. Um, and so that's my first phase. It's going to then um, inform the rest of my PhD. It is part-time, so I've got another 4 years left, I want to say, something like that. And I'm currently in my transfer window. Ironically, my transfer documentation is due in January, which is great because that's when Sheffield is.
Yeah, perfect.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of myself, though, Ryan, because I was meant to do this assessors course, and this is like basically you get assessed on how you're assessing. So I'm assessing students, and my students also do vocational qualifications alongside my modules. And I've been working towards this assessors course for 3 years, and I was like, I said to my manager, I was like, we've got no, my director of studies for my PhD. I've got no chance that I'm completing this assessor's course in this time frame. So we're going to extend this by another 3 years. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's my life
Is
currently.
Well, first off, crazy busy. Is it in terms of the menstrual cycles, is it if it affects the strength and how it does and et cetera, like that? Is that what you're okay? That's
Yeah.
interesting. So if we have studies on this previously, or is this actually relatively new ground?
Relatively new ground, I would say, especially with getting sort of how the testing is happening, if you will. So it's not easy to get the data, if you will. So I'm doing questionnaires, but I'm also doing an observation study where I'm actually taking people's bloods and I'm learning how to take people's bloods. So we actually know the phase that the individuals are in whilst we're doing the testing, whereas that's really hard to do and it's really
Hmm.
hard to manage because then I'm hoping to get athletes in or participants in 4 to 5 times in their menstrual cycle, so I can look at all the different phases and then do that for 3 cycles. So it's like that's 15 testing sessions. Is that actually doable? And so lots of
Hmm.
the research that's out there, it's like, well, it's really hard to get the data, to get the phase validation, etc. So it's very conflicting and at the moment inconclusive on if there is an effect or not. And that's what I'm hoping to just dive into a little bit more from a physical standpoint, so physiologically and psychologically. And then whatever the results are, I want to actually experiment with how can we help these athletes because they obviously feel a certain way. But is what how they feel matching what's actually happening from a hormone perspective, or
Yeah, yeah.
is it one way or the other? You know, these are all the different things that I'm looking to explore. So yeah,
It's
interesting
interesting
stuff.
because this could affect how, training cycles for women and making it more the best, most efficient training cycles. And you raise a good point there. Is how you feel actually represented in the numbers, or you feel a certain way, but the numbers won't move as much as you think, or maybe who knows? Who knows the
Mm.
correlation or whatever. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
different from woman to woman, and it's like, oh, there's not really a straight line through this, or who the
Mm,
frick knows. But it's funny how we've been doing this for quite some time in terms of weightlifting, but we haven't fully dove into all aspects of it. And to an extent, like 2012, 13, the participation rate of women in powerlifting was well lower than it is now. So these are
hmm
probably some questions that maybe weren't as prevalent 10, 15 years ago. So now it is. Now that powerlifting, I don't know the exact participation rate, but we're getting closer and closer to parity with men. In terms of
hmm
sports, powerlifting is very well represented in the women's side. And if this is the type of research that's going to help out with in terms of training and programming, et cetera, let's look into it. Let's see. Because right now
Absolutely.
we're kind of just, hey, everybody gets the same. And we don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
we
we
don't
should
know.
all get the same. Maybe we shouldn't though, right? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It could go either way. And the difficulty is there where you're saying every woman's different. Every menstrual cycle can be different for every woman. So then you're like, hey,
Yeah.
right. How the hell are we going to manage all of these different factors? Do we need to manage some more than others, et cetera, et cetera? So yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
interesting, very interesting.
it is going to take time. You would think it does have some effect because it is hormones. So you think it would to a certain degree, anyways. But I guess you're going to find out, aren't you?
That's what I'm going to certainly try my best to do.
That's right. That's right. And about the lectures and whatnot, what do you cover in those, and how long have you been doing that?
So I'm just started my fourth academic year. Um, so I've been full time for 3 years, going to my fourth, and I my two main modules that I lead on. is instructing exercise for health and fitness and advanced principles of training. So that's a first year module and a second year module on the sport and exercise science degree at the university. So I love the modules because it's that middle ground between anatomy, physiology, exercise, programming. We bring it all together. We bring it to life. We're working with people. I'm teaching my students how to build rapport at the same time as learning the anatomy behind exercise. So it's like we're bringing all of it together. So I truly love what I teach. And obviously I coach what I teach and I teach what I coach. So it's like my dream
Mm.
job.
So you're doing so you're mixing both like the science in with it, but also the soft
Mhm.
skills you're going to need in
Yeah.
terms of like if you're so you're prepping them to essentially be coaches then?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Coaches, or we've got like nutrition and exercise science students as well that might go into nutrition, exercise, or dietetics and things like that. So again, that like slightly different soft skills in there as well. So yeah, essentially,
Mm.
um, coaches, but also if they choose to, they can do their qualification, like their personal trainer qualification alongside the module, so they're ready for industry even after first year and second year, so they can go out, get employment, etc.
That's good because when it comes to coaching, you can sometimes, if it's online or even if it's in person, work around your schedule. So even if you do like
Hmm.
first year, you're still a student, you can make in some income. And the thing with
Yeah.
coaching, because obviously, yeah, there's science behind, there's exercise science behind it, and you got to know all that. But coaching really is not everybody can be a coach. And you wonder if people could get some kind of skills involved in terms of actually coaching. That's an entirely different monster. Being able
Yeah.
to have that communication with people and not, it's I don't know. Is it because some people want us like I talked to Jason Trombley. We'll use him as an example. He's a type, he's like, I want to be close to you and understand you, but I can't be your friend
Hmm.
because I need you to respect me on that level. I
Hmm.
need you to respect like when I'm making decisions. And we can't get too familiar on that tip. On the flip side, you'll have other people that will become your friend, will become like I don't know for sure, but I imagine like a Joey Flex is that guy. I don't think he's friends with everybody because he's got people like all over the world. So that's not, but I guarantee you him and like Russ are friends. I guarantee you and I bet you Jason and Taylor are friends, but it's a different type of relationship though. It's different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what do you feel about it in terms of like the coaching skills like that?
It is a difficult one, and I try to encourage my students to go sort of, yeah, what's natural to you, learn about yourself, reflect on the situation. And some people might find it more comfortable to have that solid boundary, if that makes sense, that crosses that personal and professional life. Um, I know that I can tend to be quite friendly with my athletes. I've known them for a very long time, as well. So I think I can go maybe past that boundary, if that makes sense. But I respect the people that don't. But I also, for example, I suggest to my students, I have a completely separate phone number, completely separate device, so that
Mm.
my athletes know that I'm not there every hour of every day, if that makes sense. And so they know that I have like these times on this number, not to communicate with me personally. So like little things like that, I think you develop the more that you do it, if that makes sense.
For sure. There's one of the biggest issues is I think when it comes to this, and some of it's also due to social media, because people will feel like they know you better than they know you due to social media. They see all different parts of your life. And with powerlifting coaching, it's not quite like a baseball team where, okay, we got practice, come to practice, I'll talk to you at practice.
Mhm.
It's not like a lot of team sports because individual in a lot of it's online. You're going to be reaching out to someone through messages, sometimes in or informal pathways like Instagram, Facebook Messenger. And when that happens, oh, did you freeze on me? 1 second. Okay, so I'll pick back up what I was saying. Um, Due to the way we talk to each other in powerlifting with coaching, and it's not at practice when team sports, and it is in informal pathways like Instagram or friggin' Facebook Messenger or whatever, people sometimes get looser and looser, and they will message you in the evening and family time or on weekends or because you just get I could see it. And then as you get more and more like years go by and you see someone, you get comfortable as the coach, you might feel kind of ways about being like, do I have to have a talk with Ryan? Like, hey
Yeah.
man, you can't this weekend, you can't be all over me this weekend like you know, whatever. I don't know. Or like if I'm freaking out because something's not going on and I know I could reach out to you, it's like I got you, but it isn't make or break like you think. Like it's gotta be
Yeah.
difficult. It's gotta be because you don't want to be too boundaries so they start doing the old I'm not getting what I think I need and they move on. And then like next thing you know, they got a friggin' thread on Bobbie Butters on Reddit. You know?
Yeah.
For, but so you don't want that. But on the flip side,
No,
some people are not good with boundaries. And they will you give an inch and they'll take a mile and they'll be all over you all the time. That's one of the
absolutely.
most hardest parts about I think powerlifting coaching specifically because we don't have set practices.
No.
It's it's on your own time, 24/7 time zones all over the world. Some people they just have no regard for
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is when communication is just so important, but also just knowing your own boundaries and knowing how to communicate them. Again, it's something that you learn, but something
it.
that
Hmm.
might feel difficult to start with. But if you put in boundaries, remember my director of studies said this to me, but you put in boundaries, people will respect those boundaries a lot of the time. If they don't, okay, maybe that person isn't for you in that sense, or it's something that needs to build up over time. Like for example, this weekend, I said to my I've got like a group chat on my athlete page, if you will. And I said, look, guys, my grandparents are coming up all weekend. I don't know when I'm going to get your program done. Normally it's Saturday morning. Um, and so I just said to everyone, there might be some delays. I'm going to be going backwards and forwards, in and out, and I don't really know what's going on. A mad respect from all of my athletes. Oh, yeah, yeah, sure, no worries. I've built up a rapport with them that I've been working with some of them for 7 years, so that they know their program's coming. It just might not be Saturday morning. It might be Sunday night
Hmm.
because I've put that boundary in place that actually I'm going to be struggling at the moment and to get back to you because I'm prioritizing my family right now. But those
I
again,
like the
communication so important.
I like the two phone idea too, where
Hmm.
you're just if you see the message comes through, it's gonna be tough to not grab it sometime, even though you can be like, oh, I just won't grab it. If you
Yeah,
see it,
it's still there. You still have to
yeah,
take in the information, decide what to do with it, even if you know you're just going to swipe it off until tomorrow. You still have to. Your attention is still brought to it, and then you still have to decide what to do with it.
even if you didn't open the message, if you're out for dinner or whatever, and you look and you see, oh, there's Thomas, his fucking deadlift. You know, you're like, I know it's his deadlift. Like it's and I hope you don't have
Yeah.
a client named Thomas. He'll be like, holy shit,
No,
does
I
she
don't.
get to meet
You're
a
good.
Ryan? It'd be too coincidental. Thomas would be like, okay, you talk shit
Yeah.
about me for sure. But
I-
but it would be on your mind. You can't unsee that's waiting for me. It's true, not having it on your phone. Here's another thing that I've noticed though. Not to name names, but if you're paying attention in the powerlifting community online, every few months somebody ends up getting called out for not being able to run a business like an entrepreneur appropriately. This happens every now and then. Usually it's bigger scaled people, but you have every few months, and these are big name people who've been in the game for a while. People start getting called out saying because it's one thing to be a powerlifting coach. It's another thing to realize you were also an entrepreneur. It's not like going to your day job. You start at 8 o'clock or 9 or whatever, and you have managers above you or directors, and your day gets filled with meetings and you have deadlines given to you, and there's structures to it, period, in place. And there's nothing, it just is what it is. You have to meet deadlines, show up to meetings, and everything's your day's laid out. This is my life, right? I'm in operations, account manager. This is like I have a normal day job. But you will have people who are powerlifting coaches, have a passion for powerlifting, but to actually run a business as an entrepreneur and know what it's like to organize their life, stay organized, hit deadlines, and remain professional in all these ventures and not let the ball drop. And we've seen some big name coaches who probably have excellent abilities to write programs, problem solve people's, whatever, squat, bench, whatever it may be, but they're not entrepreneurs and have that piece. And that's this pops up. You hear this. Look, at everybody's human. I'll tell you what, in a normal corporate world, people will miss deadlines, people will miss meetings or whatever. That's a normal corporate world. Okay. So every single powerlifting coach is going to have, like, this is going to happen over years, period. It just happens everywhere, no matter what. But I mean, sometimes it appears as though some people are just not cut out for the entrepreneurial aspect and part. What do you think? Is this like a whole nother? There's soft skills for communication, there's knowledge base, then there's like entrepreneurial skills on top of that.
I like that, definitely. I think it's like one of those hidden curriculum things that's like you don't really know what it's going to take until you're doing it. And like people care if you say you're going to do something by a certain time and it's not done.
Mm,
This is people's lives that you're being part of. The way I describe it to my students is, you're working with a client and they're trusting you with their health, fitness, part of their life, whatever it might be, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a general population. Um, and you need to meet some expectations and manage your time really, really well around that. And, showing up late and things like that, like it has a knock-on effect from word of mouth, etc. Because you need to be reliable, you need to be approachable, and all of these different things. And manage your time well. Definitely not overstretch yourself where you've got the whole um, what's the word? Overpromise and underdeliver,
mm.
because you have put too much on your plate, and that can happen, and it's almost part of being an entrepreneur is like knowing where that ceiling is. Like, actually, I get to this point, and now I'm not being productive anymore. I'm actually just everything's just like going down because I can't physically attain this any further. So yeah, definitely, it's really important skills, 100%.
Yeah, you got to understand what is your top end work capacity. Like, if it's your livelihood, you want to take on more and more clients for sure. But
Mhm.
there is a cap where you're not getting back to people in time, and you're consistently. Every now and then things will happen. That's good. That's life. But overall, if this is, it's the patterns that tell. If this is a pattern, you need to really check where is the cap. And then from there, if I can only manage 40 people, then I either raise my prices so that's enough for me to live off of, or I figure something else out. But you gotta sort it out. And it's like a consistent issue you see in the powerlifting community. I don't even know if there's a specific course or some kind of help with that. Do you touch on that yourself, or is that like a whole nother entrepreneurial class that I don't even know if this exists, but I think some people could definitely use it.
Definitely. I do think that more and more people are looking into sort of like a business for fitness practitioners and things like that. We have in the second year workshop, I do a business workshop. And what I do with them, I've done this once and it worked really well, is we look at people's like values and what people can bring and what type of business they want and that type of thing. So I sort of plant the seed, if you will, on how to develop a business and to know yourself and learn reflection and things. But I do think it's really great CPD to go into entrepreneurship or into like a business class or something like that to get it from a different like perspective. I kind of think that can be really helpful.
If you're going to make your whole salary off this, you're an entrepreneur. I don't even think people consider themselves that sometimes. Like, my friend,
Yeah.
if your entire livelihood is based on this, you're a businesswoman. You're a businessman.
Mm,
That's what this is.
ab-
You're not just a powerlifting coach. You probably need a CRM or something, some kind of like a database to like manage your time and all your clients and all the rest of it. Um, it's interesting. What are some of the things then that you've addressed in your class? Like you have like some of the soft skills that you think are important for coaching.
Oh, that's brilliant question to ask. So I'm just trying to think what did I do with the last practical? So we were discussing about how to instruct exercise. And so
Mm,
some of the students might be new to this, some people might have like done this already. And it's actually sort of listening to the client um and watching the client, observing the client. Are they performing it safely? If you notice that something isn't quite right, when do you tell them? Do you tell them while they're doing the squat? Or do you tell them when they come back out? Is it sometimes okay to tell them while they're doing the squat, and it's sometimes better to tell them when they're finished? And
mm,
then what motivation are you giving them? What positive reinforcement are you giving them? Are you asking for feedback? Are you asking if they understand the instructions that you gave them? So all of these different things, and out like the whole class was like a layered class of like, right, okay, we're going to go and teach how to instruct. I think I started with a bicep curl, and then by the end it was like, okay, we're going to now do a squat, and you're going to tell me how did they feel? What was the feedback? Did you ask them if they felt okay? Like those sorts of things. So it was like that build up, and then through the rest of the year, that's how we sort of say, build that communication, ask those questions. You're not just standing them watching them counting reps. You're there to observe,
mm.
you're there to supervise, you're there to direct and give positive reinforcement, etc.
Yeah, it's definitely coaching is definitely not as easy as people think as well. And it's true how you ask these questions matters and the timing of asking these questions. And it'll be different for everybody. And the feedback people need is going to be different for everybody. Some people want friendly feedback, and some people want more hard line, like you got this. Like, no, you're good. Like, no, don't like some people will complain and they're just complaining. Some people, if they complain, it's serious. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this person is not a complainer. This is serious business. If this person said something, it's for real. Where other people, they're car and they're probably always got something to say.
Yeah.
it
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
And it's
not quite
part of
as
learning. Mhm.
yeah. And that's like you have to have high people skills to be a coach, essentially. Do you get
Absolutely.
onto the motivational side? Is this like a total separate piece of it? Like, this here's another thing. I keep using Jason Tremblay as an example, but he's he said his bigger strength is not on the motivational side where it's going to pull you aside and give you a big pep talk. However, on the flip side, and I'm using Joey Flex a lot too, he's big on that. He's going to get you where he thinks he needs you to go. He'll get you wound up and out there ready to run through a brick wall if necessary. How big of a piece do you think that is on the
I
motivational side?
think Yeah, I think it's a big piece to be fair on the motivational side, but it's knowing what that motivation is needed for that client as well. I've got clients who they're meditating before they go on the platform.
Mm,
Therefore, I'm not shouting, I'm not riling them up, I'm not being their hype woman. I'm just letting them do their thing. But then there's others where it's like, no, no, I like it when you shout, I like it when you say, go on, let's go, blah, 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 whatever I'm saying. Um, and so it's getting to know the client. But it's sometimes, at the end of the day, you're there as a coach. And part of being a coach, I do think, is that motivation. And then you're going down, I think, as well, like that motivational interviewing where you're trying to understand why your client's there in the first place. What are they motivated by? So then the way that you design the program, the way that you give feedback is all sort of directed towards what those motivations are. Um, and that can come
mm.
down to what you call the block that you're in.
Oh shit,
So
that's true. When you get that that block and it's labeled something like pathway to whatever number or whatever it is. You're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, Bobbie, you just got me wound up. If you like, if you know what's got them, that's a really good idea. When you see that attachment on the email and you're like, oh shit, but you specifically called it something.
Absolutely. Yeah. It all these little things they can add up and yeah, there's so many different facets to coaching. There really is.
Funny, it's like I remember I had Jessica Bittner on and Eric Helms was on as well. And Eric was coaching Jess, and they were at one of these competitions. And before the lift, she's like, I want you to hit me on the back before I go out. And this is like relatively common, right? He was like, I don't know if he's uncomfortable with it, or he said like she turned at a time when I didn't think she was turning, and he's like, it was like the weakest, softest. Like she looked back, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? Can you use both hands then? What is? She was like, he was like, he's like, I didn't. You turned at the wrong moment. I got more in me, and she's like, God damn, man, trial. You should use both hands.
Oh,
Use a foot. What is wrong with you? What are you here?
beautiful. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's
But
funny.
well, you got to figure this out. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's interesting in terms of like the motivational side, and that alone can make or break somebody in terms of wanting to be with that particular coach. If they don't feel inspired or wound up by it, you probably lose them. Like a guy like Gavin Eden. I would assume a guy like Gavin Eden needs to be inspired and fired up. I would assume like you could cut him a good program and his genetics, you're probably going to get pretty good stuff out of it. And you want someone who's good. But if you can fire Gavin Aiden up with a good speech, I bet you that's like a huge chunk of it. Whereas there's
Yeah.
probably other lifters, you try to get them all fired up and like, yeah, whatever. Just get my squat program on point, okay? They're like, yeah, I got this. I don't need
It's
you.
still good.
Like, save your speeches. I got this. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it. In terms of Sheffield, if we double back for a second here, what are some of the battles that you're excited for yourself at Sheffield?
In terms of the other competitors,
Yeah.
sheesh. I'm really excited to see what Meg Scanlon can bring. I
You
must
know
say
what?
because she's up and up. She's got that mom strength going.
He's got mom
Yeah,
strength. And you know what? I'm happy for her because for having Alba Ballstrom and Leah Bavois in there, this might be the best 63 kilo battle we've ever seen. And those three going at it,
I may have lost
Megan
you
is going to
again.
have plenty of eyeballs on that competition. And if she wins that, holy smokes. Thank you. Okay, we got you back. I actually want to double back anyways. About training. Do you find more athletes, we're talking about this at the start of the podcast, are squatting, benching, and deadlifting and seeking out powerlifting coaches or powerlifting style training for their strength training for their respective sports?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. I think strength and conditioning as a whole, in most sports is increasing in of itself, and then that specialized strength style training that is more, if you say powerlifting-esque focused, I have seen that rise. I've got a lot less athletes, for example, at uni that have never done a squat before,
Mm.
in their respective sports. Like I definitely have seen that increase in awareness and actually doing strength training.
Yeah, it'd be wild. So few sports to me where you should be like, yeah, I don't squat at all.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy for me. Like, what? Not at all? Like, dude,
Literally.
like I can't imagine at least squatting, not being a part of it. I gotta tell you, you got a squat world record. You must be insulted if you hear this.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, there's a lot of benefits to squat, guys. Squat, hinge, all these things helpful.
I mean, just having muscle mass. This is what propels you for explosion. Even actually, it's a frig, I'm gonna mess up his name. He's in the Olympics. I think it's a two-time gold medalist in the Olympics at the marathon, I believe. Is it Mo Farah?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
a okay. All right. I thought so. And that's been a minute.
Excellent.
He's been around. But he's British, right?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's a pretty good memory
I'm
recall for
impressed.
me. I'm proud of myself. But very small individual. The guys that excel at his particular distance are small human beings. And historically speaking, they wouldn't be, weightlifting, etc. He's freaking squatting, benching, and deadlifting. And people asked him, why are you squatting, benching, and deadlifting when you're a marathon runner? And he's like, the atrophy that I cause from my muscles. You need muscles to propel you. You need muscles for your body to even be resilient. And on the last lap, when he made it into the Olympic track and they're about to finish off on this marathon, he took a tumble, did three somersaults back onto his feet, and kept it pushing. And I remember the commentators saying, that's all that powerlifting that he's been doing. And I was like, oh, because he's strong, resilient,
Yeah.
strong muscles, strong tendons, and he stays strong and explosive like that. And he's actually on his Instagram. I mean, he's a small man, but he's his videos are him lifting weights.
Yeah.
So there's athletes of all kinds. Very difficult for me to envision almost any sport where you're not going to use muscle mass to propel the ball, the javelin, the or your body to whatever you got to be doing. You would think it's to at least certain degrees applicable. So yeah, I think for sure, I think we're going to see more and more and more of it, especially with social media and how our sport is growing. I think more opportunities are going to open up for
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's just going to keep growing, I think.
it.
Absolutely.
Do you see this in your courses? People from
Oh,
different
yeah.
backgrounds with different where they want to go with it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, different backgrounds from different sports. Absolutely. I've got some students like from baseball, table tennis, like long distance runners, bodybuilding, all of like these different sports come together and like, you know, they're going to the gym, they're doing the strength training
Mm.
more frequently nowadays than even when I was a student 10 years ago. So yeah.
I mean, you got remember Tiger Woods had pictures with him and his shirt off, and he looked jacked. And it's like, this is what a golfer looks like these days. Like, not all golfers, but Tiger Woods was like, no, there's still some golfers who don't for sure. But there are some that are like, no, I got to get in shape. It's not, different sports that you wouldn't ordinarily think would, that are going to take it a lot more seriously. But yeah, I mean, we'll see as the future grows, what kind of avenues, if some of our top end coaches start getting poached for some pretty big sports. Who knows? This is the
Yeah.
bigger the sports gets, the more the opportunities, not just for the athletes, but also for the coaches. We'll have to see. But anyways, all right. I wanted to ask your opinion on that. And if you start seeing, also, do your students know about your athletic career?
They do. Yes, yeah, they do. I tend to get asked a lot of questions. I have a really supportive team from the other lecturers, etc. as well. And they like when I go and compete, they'll put it on in the class, and like that's pretty cool.
Well, I was gonna
So,
say, you would think
yeah.
you would. Like, I think it'd be cool as shit if like your professor is at the world championships, breaking world records, winning medals, like for sure have it on.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Like yeah, my students they tend to ask and they'll ask me when I'm competing and they'll follow my story and things like that, which is cool. Some students know me before they meet me, which is surreal.
Really?
Which is surreal. Like they'll come into my classroom and be like, oh yeah, you're Bobbie Butters, like powerlifting, and I'm like, how the hell do you know that? Like what? So yeah, it is. They do. They know. And it's pretty cool.
Can you imagine you get the green light for lifting at Sheffield and you're one step closer? you get the green light if they like show up, like some of your students show up. And the thing is, you
Wow.
of all people, you were like a crazy woman when you hit the platform. You're probably nothing like you are in the classroom. They're probably like, oh my God.
My students call it my alter ego. It's so funny.
Like,
Oh,
yeah, it would be a wild experience for them to see you on the platform at Sheffield. If
yeah.
you make it on there, your students got to get a bus and
That'd
show up.
be that'd be amazing. I feel like my third years would like they are unbelievably they blow my mind actually how much they followed my journey since they've been first years. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
How far away do you live from Sheffield?
It's literally like less than 2 hours drive.
Oh, frig. That's
Mhm.
nothing.
That's nothing. Yeah, literally I go there and back in a day, like easily, like not a problem.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that'd be cool.
so what are you thinking? Oh, let me also ask you, we have a bit of a, in the 57 kilo class, your weight class, we had Natalie Richards win the world championships, win best lifter. Then we had Jad Jacob defeat her at Sheffield. Now, Jad Jacob has done this before, lost at Worlds, faced the world champion at Sheffield with Joy Namani, Britain's own as well, and won against Joy at Sheffield.
Yep.
Did it to Natalie. And
Yep.
then at the world championships for our trilogy, Natalie's injured and has to pull out. So and now Natalie's not going to be at Sheffield because obviously she missed the qualifying through Worlds. Who's the number 157 in the world? What are we looking at here?
Oh, I can't answer that because they're both absolutely incredible athletes. Absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to see Jord go to Sheffield and see what she can do. It's so exciting.
Hmm.
Um, but I couldn't put a name on who's the best one. I really couldn't. What's incredible as well is they're both so well rounded. I mean, like I've seen like Natalie's bench and stuff as well. Like that's obviously increasing. And then you've got George that like deadlift that just keeps going. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. You watch it do a
Yeah.
set of 5 and 200, and it's like, wow, that's unreal. Um, so yeah, like they're both just so well rounded in each of their like lifts, and they're just going to keep getting better and better. It's so exciting to see where they're going to take the weight class. Um, yeah, there's incredibly talented ladies, and I feel very privileged to share the platform with them.
Not being able to pick which one's number one is what makes it exciting because it makes
Yeah,
it when you watch them, you're like, flip a coin. I got no idea.
it,
That's what
it
you need.
is 100%. It is a flip a coin. One lift can change. One lift can
Mhm.
change the trajectory of where it's going. And it's exciting. That's sport. The best lifter wins on the day. That's sport. I think. Go to that last deadlift. See what's there.
Now, to make things even a little more spicy, I'm sure you've seen at Girl Power, Sarah Naldi, who moved down from the 63s, is now 57.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more athletes do this. It's
Yes.
it's difficult, but they are getting I don't know who Sarah got for her nutritionist, but she's like crazy jacked now. Like these people, you see Shell, crazy, like they're starting to look like bodybuilders. Like this is a level of prep work, a level of no stone unturned, bringing more people onto your team. If you just have a powerlifting coach, now you seek out a nutritionist and you're like, we are going to fine tune this. Like it's getting to crazy levels, and more people are doing it. I got the shit code did it. Obviously, Evie. I mean, it's happening all over the place now. And
Mhm.
you can't be sleeping. Somebody can easily drop into a weight class. And Sarah Naldi had girl power when head to head with Jad. Now Jad weighed slightly over 57 kilos because girl power
Yeah.
is based on good lift points.
Yeah.
Naldi was underneath the 57 kilo class. They both had the same total. In Naldi, you split the difference. Naldi wins on body weight, if we're being fair. Jad's the reigning world champ. Now, if we're also being fair, Jad is looking at everybody else in the weight in not the weight class, sorry, but in the competition. So she's pulling for placement. She's not pulling for the head to head with Naldi. Fair enough. If she's just eyeing up Naldi, maybe she would choose her attempt selection different. Let's throw that out there as well. However, a little bit exciting when a new 57 enters, goes head to head with the reigning 57 kilo world champ, and same total, split the difference on body weight. Holy freaking smokes.
Yep.
What's going on with these 57s?
Right. I've always said this since the day I started competing, you don't know who's going to show up on the day. You don't know
Mm.
what other people are going to do. You just got to bring the best of what you've got on the day because you do not know how those tables are going to turn.
Yeah. Like you see anybody and you're like, you could probably get a nutritionist and you might drop down on me, huh?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, literally.
You're seeing it more and more. And how pivotal is this for Team Italy, who had at one point three of those ladies in the same weight class,
Yeah.
Gara, Bernardi, and Naldi, all in the same weight class. Like, ladies, you guys got to split up. you know, you got a bottleneck here. Split it up. Now they're in all three different weight classes, and it's working out like perfectly. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out in the future, but holy smokes, they got some shooters here in Italy.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and the one thing I do like as well in terms of the women's side, the international representation is phenomenal. The men's side's the men's side's more international now than it was previously. Still pretty strong on Team USA, but on the women's side, far more an international presence at the top end. Why do you think that is?
That's a really good question. I don't know, That's a really interesting question.
Like, is weightlifting in for women catching on now in Europe like later than it did in North America? And
Maybe.
now Europe and in the other nations are catching up, or like
Mm.
culturally was it, or I don't know, because like Europe is not all the same either. And these are all different European nations catching up. I'm not sure. But the rest of the world in the women's division is definitely like it's definitely catching up.
Oh, yeah. Just more and more. Again, it's that exposure to the sport, like, and especially from a women's perspective, there are more and more like women over the last sort of 10 years pushing to get like more women into lifting. There
Hmm.
has been a push for that for the last sort of 10 years. Um, has that got something to do with it? I don't know. Yeah, it's really interesting. Is it a cultural thing? Like, yeah, I couldn't tell you. I really wouldn't know, but it's interesting to think about.
And it being on Eurosport, I mean, I'm not European, but is it more prominent because it's just on TV? How much is it on TV? Do people have you felt any impact on it? Are people mentioning to you that they saw powerlifting on TV or no?
I would say so. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's certainly not on like a main sports TV one. Like it's one you have to have like a package for.
Okay.
Um, I believe I don't actually own a TV though, so I'm a terrible person to have this conversation with. Um, but um, but yeah, like I have definitely had conversations with people where they've seen it on TV. They're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I saw that on this channel, etc. So yeah, it definitely made an impact.
I think that might help as well then. When you if you're growing up, you're 16-year-old girl and you're watching TV and you see women on TV like a regular, it's a Saturday afternoon and they're smashing weights,
Yeah.
it'll definitely help culturally be like, I wonder if I could do that. You got to plant the
Oh,
seed somehow.
mm, definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, it is. It's definitely it just keeps growing, and you see younger and younger people getting involved in this as well, and not being scared to do weights at the age of 12. Like, it's a great thing to do. So I think we've got some exciting things to see in the future with the sport.
What did you find powerlifting in 2012 as a teenager?
As a teenager, yeah. So I was really young when I started lifting weights in general. I had my first set of weights between the age of 6 and 8. So I always loved like
That's
lifting.
crazy.
And it like, yeah, it just fascinated me. And then when I did my own personal training qualification when I was 16, we were learning how to do squat bench deadlift, learning how to teach people how to do it, learning how to do it ourselves. And I'd never done it before, other than like just general weights, etc., like in your bedroom type situation. I'd never done a proper deadlift before, and it was one of the things we were going through. And I was 50 kilos at the time, and I deadlifted 100 kilos. First time ever
Hmm.
doing it. I didn't realize what that meant at the time. And then whilst I was doing that, one of my college tutors said, "Have you ever heard of powerlifting?" Um, his name's Martin Beastle, and I've got a lot to thank for him because he literally said, "Have you ever heard of powerlifting?" Like 2 months later, there was a competition. He was like, "If you fancy giving it a go, there's a local meet." It was like a push pull. So it's only bench and it was only deadlift. And then I never looked back from there. I remember being, I mean, I get really nervous anyway. I remember being so, so nervous for my first competition. I was like, oh my God, these nerves are unreal. Am I going to pull out?
Really?
Like, so
Really?
nervous. I get incredibly nervous anyway, still to this day.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I am a very, very nervous lifter. And and yeah, I just never looked back. I did Olympic weightlifting for a little bit in the middle, but I came back to powerlifting, and it was yeah, it was the sport that I fell in love with me from being a young girl, and yeah, it just continued from there.
So you still get nervous now?
Absolutely, absolutely, like incredibly so. It's managed,
Really?
but yeah, like if I sit and think about it enough, I'll get nervous for nationals. I get nervous for training sessions as well. Like this
Smokes.
the same sort of feeling, like I'm feeling sick. I can feel that like my brain is going towards training, and like I get the butterflies, I feel sick, and my body's preparing, my mind's preparing for the session that I'm about to do, but especially for a competition. Like I'll wake up in the morning and I've got to like give myself the mental prompts to be like, we're not lifting now, we're eating our eggs. We're not lifting now, we're going for a walk, like bring myself back, and then just unleash it all on the platform.
Isn't it something special that after 12 years, it'll still come for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember someone saying to me before my last world, they were like, "You've done this like world 5 times at this point. Do you still get the nerves?" Like, of course I do. I love this. I'm here to do my best. I'm absolutely a brick. Um, but it, I'd be more worried if I wasn't nervous.
Right. You know, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast and MMA fighters were talking about nervousness. And the one guy was asked, like, have you ever not been scared before a fight? He's like, twice in my career. Both those times I lost.
Hmm.
It,
Yeah.
it keeps you sharp. It means you care. To your point earlier about I care about this. It means you care. If you're not nervous, it means like what does that mean? Does it mean you don't care about the outcome? Like
Hmm.
you really need to ask those questions to yourself if you're no longer nervous. It might
Yeah.
mean you don't care anymore. Like some people think it's like cool to not be nervous or not care, but if you care, it's and do you find like so if you're nervous for why do you think you're nervous for a training session?
Um, I think it's that wanting it to go well. It's that anticipation of my mind and body preparing for the thing that I'm about to do. And obviously, you don't know the outcome.
Mm.
You really want it to go well and etc. Or I want to achieve what I want, what I've set out to achieve, that type of thing. And just to do my best. Like I will go into every session, especially when we get closer to competition and things. And it's like I just want to do my best. I want to go in and know that I've done everything that I can to do the best in the session.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, in a lot of ways, like this is the building block that's going to lead to your performance. So if it starts going poorly, those building
Yeah,
blocks start adding up poorly, and you're like, oh my God,
yeah,
where is this leading? Is this why? Because you're intense in training as well. Are you
yeah.
or are you always intense in training? Is it just when you're hitting big numbers?
Um, Hitting big numbers or like even like an AMRAP or something like that. An AMRAP, it might be slightly different. But I definitely noticed over the years that my hype and the intensity is like periodized with my training. And like sometimes, like for example, if I'm going to do a squat on 160, but I haven't touched 160 in a while, I'll get nervous and I'm like, no, 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 come on, bring it down. 160. What are you playing at? Come on, focus in a slightly different way, approach it um a bit more, what's the word? Neutral, like you've got this. But then yeah, the weights start to go up. The heavier the weight, the more nervous energy, the more hype comes out. That's what I've learned happens. And I let it happen.
When you get into competition, is that why you hit that platform like a mad woman and you're like such fevered, hyped? It's like nervous energy.
It is.
Scream,
The more,
screaming help.
yeah, for me, it's like it's so hard because it's one of those where I never said to myself one day, I'm going to start shouting at the bar. I never like nothing never happened like that. It just started happening. I started talking to myself more. Like I talked to myself in the third person, like, come on, Bobbie, come on, Bobbie. And like I just started doing that more and more. And I was like, I feel good, this feels good, this feels right.
Say that out
And then
loud, or no, or you felt that talking to yourself.
felt that talking to myself, like
Mm,
like I'd start like saying it out loud. And like sometimes I didn't realize quite what I was saying or quite what I was doing. It was like a switch. Okay, right, it's go time. And like something fills my body, and it's all that nervous energy. You can always tell when I'm really nervous because I get really hyped,
mm,
and it's that coming out because it's like I'm trying to analyze it so many times because I get asked about it.
yeah.
And it's that it's that nervous energy and channeling it into doing the thing that I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you get ass. It is so. Some people get hyped, but you are like crazy hyped. On the flip side, do you ever get like you don't want to blow too much? Because here's the thing with nervousness, it can make you use more energy than you want, and then by the end
Hmm.
of the day, you feel fatigued. So it's do you like go back and like calm yourself? Like you were the entire opposite of what we're used to seeing with Joy Namani, who's reading a book with a lollipop, hands her book to his side, walks out all smiles, asks the crowd to stop talking. You guys are entirely opposite with the way you approach things. Um, and honestly, I was always more like I wasn't as hyped as you get, but I need some fire. It helps me. Adrenaline helps me. I can't be
Yeah,
calm, cool, collected, all smiles. I need some adrenaline going through my body. But
yeah.
do you do you like bring it back down when you're in the back? Because 3 hours, you can't stay hyped on to that fevered pitch for 3 hours.
No, definitely not. Like there is a come down and then build back up. Yeah, definitely. Because it is exhausting. It's mentally exhausting, physically exhausting. And that's why like sometimes as well I have to. It's almost like on the first and second attempts, I'm holding back. I can feel myself. Right, come on, this is the opener. Just make it move. Do what you need to do, etc. And then I feel it building every time. So I go and do my opener and then it builds for the second. And then for the third, it's like poof, lid comes off. Right, we're getting everything into this now. And it does, I literally feel it like happen. So the first and second, it always has to be more controlled. And then like I have like a system where like two lifters out. Okay, right, we're starting to put the music on, we're starting to visualize, we're starting to do all the things. And it's like a full-on process that's just naturally developed over time. I've not periodically thought, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it. It's just happened organically the more and more I've
Mm,
competed.
yeah. I mean, there is like an adrenaline dump if used too much, but if you know how to use it and bottle it, and if you're gonna feel this way anyways,
Yeah,
you might as well channel it.
absolutely. It's that acceptance. On like sports sites talk about that. Like it's accepting that you're nervous as opposed to ignoring it. It's talked
Mm,
about. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a very emotional person. I feel things. And I've learned that as I've gotten older. And it makes sense as to why this hype thing even started right from when I was a younger girl, um, because I am an emotional person. So therefore, I'm bringing that emotion out in something that I'm so passionate about.
Mike Tyson said, I love fear. Fear is my friend. Fear, if controlled, you can cook with fire. It's like fire. You can cook with fire, or you can warm your house with fire. But if it's out of control, you will literally burn your house down.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
need to know how to, once you, it's you saying it's acceptance is exactly how he described it is it's coming. There's nothing you could do about it. If you want to, you're not going to dance in the rain without getting wet. You want to play this game, fear is going to come. So once you
Yeah,
accept that piece, now what are you going to do when you feel the fear? If you have
exactly.
certain things you do when it starts coming, you're okay. But if your thing when it comes to fear is I'm gonna avoid it, well, good luck with that. Or I'm gonna ignore it, well, good
Yeah.
luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're gonna feel it. It's coming. It's not avoiding. You're gonna feel it. What are you gonna do when it comes? Um, so far in your career, well, first off, I can't imagine what Sheffield's gonna be like then. If you lived at Sheffield, holy smokes, talk about hype and
Real.
with like a hometown crowd. This
Oh
isn't
my
even like
God.
a different nation. That would be crazy. But anyways, yeah, we'll see what happens. So far in your career, what do you think is your finest hour?
Oh, that's a really great question. Um, I would say my finest hour was Europeans last year, 2023, because it was the first competition I could truly say I was proud of myself.
Really?
Um,
The first? You've done
yeah,
so much though.
I was talking about this actually to my students the other day. They were asking me about this, and I was like, that competition it was the first time I came off that platform and I'd underperformed, quote unquote. I think I'd missed 182 squat, etc. Um, and I matched. In fact, I was under my deadlift, but I was like, but I went out there and I put my heart and soul. I'd been going through Red S, so I've been recovering from various health complications, and I was like, I'm really proud of who I am and what I've achieved on this day. And that was a big turning point. That was a big turning point. Actually being proud of who I am and not thinking I should always be better.
What I don't know what red S is.
So Red S is a relative energy deficiency in sport. So after I think it had been building up for a few years, but after Malta 2023, I want to
Yeah.
say. Don't know where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. After Malta 2023 World Championships, I knew something wasn't right. I lifted the entire day feeling like an empty shell. I was getting winded by my warm ups. I was getting winded by various things. Basically, basically, long story short, I wasn't eating enough. And it was getting really, really hard to make weight. Well, part of Red S is you can reduce calories, and your body is sort of fighting itself to the point where it'll actually make you hold the weight as opposed to losing it. Um, and I was in a very difficult position. So I was sort of recovering from that. So this time last year, I'd started my process of eating more, etc. Um, and so I was like in that, and yeah, when I did Europeans 2023, I came off and I said to the head coach at the time, I was like, I'm proud of that, And he went, and I remember his words. He went, "Well, it's about time." And I was like, that sums up things for sure. Because I am the first one to pick holes in things. I can accept that this went well, etc. But the holes are where I think I could have done more can sit with me for longer, etc. And so it's been a journey, but that's where that turning point happened.
That's often the case.
Oh
You
yeah.
can do a ton of things right. You fumble the ball in a couple things, and like those two things will bother the shit out of you, and you won't pay attention to the 10 things you did right. And you're
Mm.
like, it's all perspective too. You won, like I was saying, how many? I wrote this down. I think you got a second here. Four-time world's medalist in the open, not juniors or whatever, four-time world's medalist in the open, which is insane. Everybody knows how competitive the open world championships is. Go to four of them in medal. Two-time European champion, and you're breaking open world records. I mean, it's most people, and by most people, I mean 99% of people in the world in powerlifting will never come close to that. And so to hear yourself be like, yeah, I was never proud yet, but it's common. It's actually, I don't know if this is, do you think this is something with athletes in general or?
I think it's something with, yeah, like with athletes in general, people that are trying to I don't know how to describe this, to be the best at something like in a competitive environment, or whether it's work or something like that. Like I'm reading a book at the moment and it's called The Happy High Achiever. And it's like the people who want to achieve good things and they're constantly striving to get better and better and better. And it's really common to come across this, and it's listening to how you're talking to yourself and things like that. Um yeah, it is really common because we can be the first critic. We can be the harshest critic to ourselves. It's how you manage that critic that's really important.
Michael Jordan, people, they ran a campaign back in the day, like be like Mike. And Michael Jordan was in an interview one time, and the interviewer was like, so many kids around the world want to be like Mike. And he was throwing out like that campaign and whatnot. He's like, what do you think about that? Isn't that crazy? That like millions of people all over the world, you got kids coming up being like, I want to be like Mike. And he's like, you don't want to be like Mike. And he explained, I achieve a lot, but I'm never satisfied. I'm never happy with it. And he's like, sometimes I wish I was just happy, just
Yeah.
like content. Being content is a really nice feeling. Being happy is a nice feeling. And I don't know. Do you think after your career is over, when you look back, maybe it'll come to you and be like, hey, when you look at all the world championships, the medal count, world games is going to be on the docket, and you're still in your 20s. God knows by the end what all is going to transpire and how many medals you're going to have and in titles. Do you think maybe afterwards you'll be able to look back, or do you think afterwards you'll look back and still be like, God damn it, I should have went 5 more kilos on that squat. Like, what do you think? Because in it, when you're in it, not the worst thing in the world to stay hungry. Maybe this is why you guys at the top end keep pushing. Do you think afterwards you'll gain perspective and be able? What do you think?
I really can confidently say yes. I think I can, because something that I've learned through this Red S journey, and through my journey in general, really, like especially over the last 10 years, and I've learned to be proud of the things I've achieved while still being hungry for more, and knowing and that's okay to always want more, but you can still be happy with where you're at. And I turn 30 next week, so I think I'm going very
I
philosophical,
got you.
etc.
I got you right on a major life moment. We're gonna get deep right now, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. And I messaged my sports site the other day, and I'm going to enter my 30s the same way that I've left my 20s. And that is, I am proud of Bobbie Butters right now. And I want to remember that feeling of being like, I'm proud of who I am. I'm always going to want to do more. I'm always going to want to achieve more. And I'm always going to find things that I can learn from and be better at. But I'm Bobbie Butters and I'm proud of who I am, and what I've achieved so far. And and that's a really nice feeling, to feel like that, because it's not like an all or nothing approach. It's not like that's it. It's actually like, I'm proud, but let's keep pushing.
Hmm. You got to try to find both because while we talk about in the future, I'll look back, not to get too morbid here, but we talk about the future. What if the future doesn't happen? What if what you have right now, you have right now. You have right now. You have the present right now. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't start being happy and content right now and be like, when I'm like 65, I'll look back. That's when I'll chill. How do you know you're going to be 65? We don't, none of us do. Appreciate
Exactly.
it right now. You're living these moments.
Yeah.
And I get it. You got to sort of compartmentalize and still keep the foot on the gas. It's tough. Like some people get to certain levels. Like for instance, a Russell Orhe came in silver at the World Championships. Silver at the World Championships. Probably felt like the worst day of his life.
Yep.
You know, cried,
Yep.
tears of sorrow, eating him up ever since. Can't wait for Sheffield to come around so we could try to get revenge. Silver. It's like my friend. I talked to Taylor Atwood. I'm like, do you know your medal count? Do you know ridiculous? Because he's won silvers, bronze, and 3 golds at Worlds. I'm like, like, and he's several times. So, like, your medal count? Like, it's like insane. And sometimes they're like, yeah. It's like, no, man, this is still crazy. Yeah, it's what
Yep.
pushes people, but also it can rob you of moments. But there is a
Yeah.
balance. You do want to stay hungry. I get that too. Because the same hurt that Russ is making himself feel for only air quotes get silver is got him so wound up and hungry coming into Sheffield. He's he's like eat, sleep, train. He's like a machine right now because of it. So there is a balance.
There is.
I
Yeah.
don't
And every person's balance will look different as well.
know.
But yeah, there is a balance, and I'm really trying to learn that balance because like I've been in a position where the first time I won my international title, which was Europeans 2022, and I came off the platform and I felt like I didn't deserve it. I was like, I wasn't good enough. I didn't deserve
What?
it.
Really?
And I'm like, when I think back to that, and I'm like, there's a reason why I felt like that in that place. And I don't want to go back there again because, like, would you say that to somebody else? Absolutely
Mm.
not. Um, and so I think back to that, and I wouldn't change that moment because again, it makes you who you are, and makes me appreciate that, like, the pride that I feel now is grown. It's progress.
Isn't that interesting when you said, would you say that to someone else after they just came off the platform and won an international competition? Of course
Mhm.
you wouldn't.
No.
It'd be way too out of line and harsh, but you'll say it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
No.
isn't that something? And it's true.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If you ever fumble whatever in life and you're like, God, idiot. Of course. What are you thinking? You talk to yourself like that sometimes. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you talk like that to someone else, if you talk like that to your friends, you're not going to have friends.
No.
You'll,
No.
but you'll talk like that to yourself.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And
Yeah.
that's actually pretty well self awareness for you to pause and be like, no, what am I doing? What do you mean? Would you ever say that to someone else? There's probably other people in the competition like, oh, that's so amazing for her. But you can't say it to yourself. It's interesting that we are like that.
Yeah.
A while back, who was it? Jen Milliken was on it. 50, actually, former 57 world champ
Mhm.
from like
Yeah.
back in 2017, actually. And she was on the podcast and she said she was going through, I don't know if she was going through like sports psychology or whatever, but she was reading about, anyways, how if the names you called yourself or how you described yourself or how you talked to yourself was on a sweater, all those names, all those words, all those, if it was on a sweater, would you be proud to walk out in public with it?
Oh, I like that.
Or would it be really revealing and people be like, Jesus, you talk like that to yourself?
Hmm.
If everyone got to see the way you talk to yourself, would you be proud? Or would people be like, Jesus, Bobbie, you talk like that to yourself? And it changed the way she talked to herself. She's like, I think sometimes I wouldn't. I would not
I
want
like
to wear that sweater out in public. People would be like, holy smokes. And it's something weird where it's like beating yourself up is fine. Beating up other
hmm
people is a problem. Or even just like giving yourself kudos.
hmm
We could be real quick to give accolades or kudos to someone else, but doing it to yourself, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Who's your sports psychologist? Is it someone we know?
It's actually a colleague of mine at work. I actually share an
Oh, makes
office with
sense.
this. How lucky am I? Unfortunately, this wonderful lady no longer works with me. She works at another university. She literally left a few days ago. Very devastating. But yeah, she's been my sports site now for a little while. And she's just great. She's just great. And she really thinks about me as the human first and foremost, same as my coach, same as my nutritionist. I am first and foremost a human. And that's been a big shift for me mentally as well. Like knowing that I'm a human first, I have to fuel and rest the human to be able to perform as a coach, as a lecturer, as an athlete.
Hmm. You
Yeah,
got
she's
quite the
one.
team around you.
I feel I am a, I feel very, very lucky to have the people around me.
Is this more normal, you think, to have like full teams like this? Or like a sports psychologist, a nutritionist, someone who's doing your programming, Matt Gary as
I
head coach?
And insane, isn't it? Insane. It's definitely, I feel in a very privileged position. I feel really fortunate as well. Being at a university, you have access to different people,
Mm.
um, which is really great. Like a wide breadth. Everyone that I came across, other than Henry, who's my coach, is through university, including my physio as well, like who I go and see. Like all these people are at the university. And also I guess I got to a point where I was like, I want to seek this help from other people. I want to seek this help. I want to seek this advice because they're specialists in these areas. And I can do all the reading, etc., etc. But I value being a coach and I know what I can bring or try to help to bring to somebody else. So I'm going to go and get this advice from these other people, see if we gel. If we do, great. If not, okay, go, might not work, but I'm really lucky that I found some fantastic people that I can go to.
You ever considered changing weight classes? Or do you think at some point in time you will change weight classes? Or do you think your 57's your home?
Right now, I feel 57 is my home. I did consider because of the way my body weight was going, my cuts were getting harder, getting into the 57s, and with the reds that was going on as well, it was making it incredibly challenging. So I said to myself after Malta, I was like, right, if I have another year of this, maybe 63s is where I need to be. Now I'm making 57 the easiest I've ever have done in my life. So
Hmm.
it's amazing what eating and sleeping more can do, guys. I tell you.
I mean, it's true. So is it you ate more calories but didn't gain weight? Like, is it just like steps or how did you be able to do that?
There was a lot of steps. There was a lot of steps. So it went from like there were times where I was having 1,300 calories a day. Um
Nothing.
yeah, it's nothing. And it's so I went from that and then I quickly increased calories. So my body weight went up a little bit more, but then like over the last 12 months, it's come like gradually, steadily back down to where I sit nicely at 58, 59 kilos between there.
Hmm.
Very rarely see much more than 59.5. Um, and I just have a lot more confidence with my weight drops down like normally, if that makes sense. And I've got like strategies that me and like, the nutritionist work with. But there was like a gradual step by step process where now I can eat more and maintain a lower weight. There were times when my body weight had to go up. It just had to because my body had to start utilizing fuel more. It was painful as well. Like I remember after like the first 2 weeks of eating like closer to 2,000 plus calories because I started to feel more and more hungry. My stomach was in so much pain. I would be crunched over because my digestive system was obviously asleep. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, and I had to accept that my body weight was going to go up. It had to, because it had to go up before it could come back down because of where I was at in my health, if you will. And then just gradually over time, um, increase calories a little bit more, decrease them again, increase them again, and so on.
What are some of the future goals you have that you want to accomplish as an athlete before this is all done?
I like that. Great question. Obviously, 500 kilo total plus would
It's right
be.
here.
Yes,
You're right
I'm
there.
like, come on, I'm so close. Um,
That's a
I have
huge
got,
one, by the way. We're talking not, you can remember when 500 kilos is winning the 63 kilo world title.
yeah,
And, I remember it was just like freaking the first Sheffield, that 495 is what Joey and Jad were doing for the world record of going into Sheffield. I mean, you're right there. You're
yeah,
right at 500. Yeah, that's definitely the next milestone for you. But
yeah.
that's like your next competition, like next year type deal.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. Um,
Hmm.
and then yeah, like I've got a few things in mind. Like 200 kilo deadlift. I'm getting so close to 200 kilo deadlift. 190 squat. Reclaim the world record. Will that be in my
Yeah.
future? We can certainly try. Um,
Uh,
um, and then bench. It'd be great to get the world record bench. I've been chasing 115 for a little while. I don't like chase numbers, but that 115, I'm like, right, come on now. We know it's there. Just do it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, getting closer to that 120 bench and getting closer to that world record would be fantastic. But if I'm being like completely transparent and honest, that's where I'm at right now.
And do you like, is there titles and stuff or like number of or medals or whatever that you have in mind? Or is it just keep chasing numbers and whatever happens, happens?
I am very much a don't chase the wind, let the wind find you. However, I want to hopefully one day be in a position where I can fight for world champion. That would be incredible if I can get that opportunity to do so. I'm going to keep pushing to try. Um, and we'll see what happens. I'm certainly not going to retire without a fight. So
I mean, you're winning enough medals. I mean, you just got to change the color of them, right?
absolutely,
You're in the conversation as long as you're winning medals.
yeah, definitely. It is pretty cool to be up there with these incredible lifters is an absolute privilege. It really is because as you say, you don't know the 57s is getting more and more competitive. Powerlifting is getting more and more competitive. And so you don't know who's going to show up on the day. You've got no idea. So it's like just keep pushing, just keep pushing.
So it's remarkable for you to be here after all these years because year to year it gets crazier. Year to
Oh
year
yeah,
people pop up, and year to year for you to still be here collecting titles, collecting, international titles, collecting medals, and having these opportunities. You earned it. You earned it the old-fashioned way. I'm proud that you made it through. I'm glad you got the alternate spot. I'll see you at Sheffield regardless. But we'll keep our ears open and see. Maybe you end up lifting. Who knows? But you're at World Games, and I'm sure you got to be one of the favorites. I mean, you got to lift and everything, but you'll be one of the favorites to return to the World Championships. And well, let's see what happens. Good luck with everything,
absolutely.
Bobbie.
Thank you very much. And thank you for asking me on here. Thank you very, very much.
100%. I'll see you soon. Good luck with training. And for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.